Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Peach State Power Hour. I'm Harrison Reno. That's Eddie from Acworth, Andy Stowe, and our special guest. In my opinion, the best Georgia quarterback of all time, Aaron Murray. He won't say it himself. He'll give the honor to somebody else. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us here tonight on the Peach State Power Hour.
Yeah, man. Thanks for joining me. Appreciate the love, and I do agree with you. I would not put myself one. I do consider championships the most important thing, and so I said this a year or two ago. I'd give it to Stetson. I think Stetson, the story, what he did, winning 2 championships. I think he's right there. And then, hey, man, he balled out last night. So he's kicking butt. He's taking advantage of, obviously, our boy Stafford being a little bit banged up right now, getting those reps and looking pretty dang good.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, I guess we'll dive right into it because we got Aaron. I think we've been talking about it. This is one of the most unique Georgia seasons in quite some time. Georgia's not the preseason favorite to go win the national championship. They're not even the consensus #1 team. No. I guess just to kick us off, what are your thoughts and vibes around this program heading into what is going to be, I think, a unique 2025 season?
Well, I think that's unique for everyone in college football. I mean, like, who is the great team? Who is the dominant team? I mean, you look back to last year, and I felt really good about Georgia with what they had coming back on both sides of the football. I thought Carson Beck was the best quarterback in college football. I've been high on Carson for years. I mean, back to his freshman year. So I was like, there's no way Georgia does not win it all last year. And then obviously you looked at Ohio State, the way their roster was built. You look at Texas, what they did in the portal. Obviously Quinn Ewers back for another season. And you kind of start saying like, okay, these are the teams that really have an opportunity to go out there and win a championship. So we felt good about them. There isn't a team right now in college football that I can sit back and say, oh my God, I think they're head and shoulders better than everyone else. Ohio State, major rebuild. A young quarterback, ready to see what they look like. Texas has to replace a lot of dudes on both sides of the football, especially at the lines of scrimmage, and a quarterback that, listen, I think Arch is great. I will cheer for him every single week, besides when he comes to Athens. But at the end of the day, he hasn't really played. So, like, I don't know what he's going to be like. I don't know if he's going to be a first-round caliber guy or a mid-round guy. It's like, that's still a lot of question marks there. Alabama, a lot of question marks, especially with their quarterback situation as well. And, how good is he going to be? So, if there's a team that returns a lot, obviously it's Penn State and what they have on both sides of the football. But do we believe in James Franklin? Is he that good of a coach to win a championship? So there really isn't that team this year that you feel really good about, which is, part to do with the new transfer portal rules and the NIL and all that. So I think it's great. It's going to make it more exciting, hopefully, for the football season. So yeah, Georgia may not be one based on the polls in the preseason, but there's no doubt in my mind that they have a good enough roster compared to everyone else in the country to go out there and win a championship still.
So Aaron,
Aaron, go ahead, Andy. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, that you're talking about Georgia and how they are being, not overlooked, but sort of overlooked. But this is Kirby's highest rated team ever with 84% blue chip ratio. Whew. Yeah, so this is his highest ever, and that's more than the national championship years. But a lot of the talk is, but Gunnar is Gunnar the guy? So I keep thinking, but what if Gunnar is the guy? Because why is he not getting that love? Is there something you see in him that maybe it shows why he's not getting all the hype that Arch gets?
Yeah, well, his last name's not Manning. I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, if his last name was Manning, Georgia would be probably picked to be the #1 team in the country, and everyone should just quit the season with Kirby Smart a roster and a Manning at the helm. But listen, I think the problem is you saw a difference between him and Carson when it comes to just pro prospects. Like, I still believe Carson has an opportunity to go down to Miami, have a good season, and be a first-round draft pick. I think that's just how good Carson is. He's 6'4", he's 230, he's got a great arm, he's athletic enough. Like, he checks off a lot of boxes to where, if Georgia didn't have as many issues at the receiving position last year, if he didn't get hurt, even with some of the bad games he had, still probably would have been a top 2, top 3 round quarterback. So I think if he cleans up a lot of stuff that I know he will be first round. So I think when you look at Carson and what he can do, and then when Gunnar would come in, 2 different quarterbacks, Gunner's more athletic. I wouldn't say as pure of a thrower. So you start comparing those guys like, oh, well, he doesn't look like a first-round draft pick. Well, Jake Fromm didn't look like a first-round draft pick. Stetson Bennett didn't look like a first-round draft pick. Hell, I don't look like a first-round draft pick, but like Jake Fromm should have won a natty. Stetson won 2 of them.
Yeah.
So is he good enough to win a championship? Hell yeah. He's got plenty of arm strength. He's athletic. I think my biggest concern with Gunnar is one, obviously game experience. But it's just going to be how competitive he is. And I know that sounds crazy, but we don't have a backup quarterback that's played football at this level.
Yeah.
Like for Gunnar, I just think about that game versus Texas and him getting just absolutely blown up. And I'm like, he has to learn. And I'm sure Bobo's talked to him when and when not to put his body on the line, because if he goes down, there is no experience behind him, with Puglisi and Montgomery and down the line. So, but back to your question, like, why is he not getting enough love? It's because I think a lot of people compare to what Georgia had last year and how good Carson could have been and should be and could be this season. But skill set wise, he's got all the tools you want.
Well, Aaron, I think one of the biggest deficiencies last year was the running game. I mean, I'm not speaking out of turn here, right? Everybody knows that. We were last in the SEC, something like that. So going forward, how do you fix that, and how do you feel about this running back room? I know it's two parts, right? It's the offensive line. There was a lot of injuries there, a lot of rotations in and out. So there was Tate Ratliff is there all year. It's a different line of scrimmage. I understand that. But how do you feel, A, about this running back room, and B, what do you think about the line of scrimmage up front this year coming in? Because a lot of young bucks coming in to block for these guys.
Yeah, I think that's – I 100% agree with you a year ago, and I always tell people like that was my biggest worry from the season was I would say I would rank it like this: one, receivers. You can't have 37 drops, so receivers were the biggest issue. Second issue was the inconsistency in the run game, lack of explosive plays in the run game, and then kind of third was Carson, and then the moments where he was trying to do it all, the turnovers, the bad decisions. So that's kind of how I would rank him down the list there. But and I think back to my time. I didn't think back before me. When I was watching Georgia for the first time, and I was watching Noshawn Moreno run the football in the explosive plays. Then I get there and we had Todd and Keith, and it felt like every single game we'd have 2, 3, 4 runs that would be 30, 40, 50, 60 yards. Then you got Sony and Chubb. So we're so accustomed to getting chunk plays, where it felt like last year it was just difficult. Like it felt like every run was difficult. It was hard to get. It was 3 yards in a cloud of dust. It wasn't that 40-yard run and then bam, all of a sudden you got the defense on their heels. So I think it was a little bit the offensive line, injuries, guys moving around, little lack of that running back experience as well, and guys being explosive. And I thought one was going to be a little bit better based on what I saw in the spring, and he had his moments. So I think, like you said, it's a little bit of the whole offensive line running back, but I think they're going to be fine. Like I think Andy said, like this is a group defensively and offensively that has a lot of stars. Yeah. A lot of guys that are very talented. I think Stacey Searles is a really good offensive line coach, and I think there's going to be an emphasis this year to run the football and then mix it up as well. When you have a guy like Zachariah Branch that you can give the ball to, that's another way to get some running yards. When you got Dylan Bell, that's another way to get some running yards. When you got McCray there from Illinois, an opportunity to get some nitty gritty yards. So I like the room as a whole. I like the other pieces that can create running plays besides just the true running back position. And then obviously you got Gunnar running the football as well and his legs. I think that's going to play pivotal in some key moments as well throughout the season.
So I've asked these guys in here just real quick, Harrison. Nate Fraser's the guy. He's the number one guy. Oh, yeah. Who do you think, Aaron, is the number 2 running back to take the field against Marshall?
Ooh, Marshall. Dylan Bell?
No, really?
No, I'm kidding. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much McCray has done. I don't know if he's had a shot or not.
Well, I've been saying Roderick Robinson. That's the guy I've been saying.
It would be nice. It would be nice.
If he's fully healthy, right?
If he's healthy, I think that's been the biggest issue is just can Rod just be healthy?
Yeah.
But I would like to see Dylan get some more touches.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I do a show with Noshawn and Tavares King, and they're always arguing like, what position Dylan Bell should be. Should he be a running back or should he be a receiver? So it's still an ongoing debate that I'm sure will continue throughout the season.
Yeah, but we've kicked that around as well, Aaron, on the show because Dylan Bell, gimmick is the wrong word, but that's what he was last year because of all the injuries to the running back room. If you're loaded at running back, do we really want to see Dylan Bell back there? I know he's explosive. I know he can do things, but he may not need to play that role this year, right? And he can
Yeah,
just
but I mean, also I
concentrate
feel
on the
they're
receiver.
pretty good about the depth at the receiving position as well. So I think if you're in 11 personnel, you get 3 receivers on the field.
Mhm.
Obviously, Colby's had a great camp from everything that we're
Yeah.
seeing. I think Noah Thomas is a great presence on the outside. And then you see and hear about what Zachariah Branch is doing. So all of a sudden you're like, okay, we got our Z, we got our X, we got our Y. Now how can we fit Dylan Bell into the equation? Obviously, he can play all those positions and move around, but why not get him in the backfield as well, too, especially in like known passing situations, and just see if you can get him matched up.
Aaron, we touched on kind of some of the biggest talking points from last year. There's one that hasn't gone away. It extends back to before you were there, it extends to when you were there to now. Mike Bobo is constantly talked about. I mean, you boot up social media constantly. You played for him. You now cover him as an analyst. What is it about Mike Bobo that you think fans don't understand about that guy? Because I tell you what, he's like the lightning rod that surrounds Georgia football right now.
He's the linchpin.
Oh, people, it's crazy.
Yeah,
I think it's the fact that there's such a comfort level. He's played there. He's kind of been around. It's like when you have your boys, when the more you get to know someone and you're best friends with them, the more you feel like you can kind of rip them and get after them a little bit. So I just feel like there's this comfort level with Georgia fans of, we know Bobo. I wouldn't say like we're kind of sick of Bobo, but we just know him well enough. So like we feel like we can just give him crap whenever we want to. And when you look at the stats, I go back to like when we played, we're always one of the best offenses in the SEC. I think he's, you look back to last year, he can't catch the damn ball. I mean, he can't have Carson not throw into, triple coverage against Florida over the middle of the field. Like these are little things that like coach can set you up and call the right play, but you got to go out there and execute. I think there's a lack of execution. And I know Bobo will take it and say, listen, part of that's my fault. And it is, was he perfect? No. Can he be better? 100%. But I think as a whole, everyone, players, coaches need to look themselves in the mirror after last year and say, hey, we got to be better collectively. And, I cheer for him. I love him. He's very smart. He's passionate. He works extremely well with the quarterbacks. He's open to listen to suggestions. I think that's something that you see a lot of coordinators out there that's kind of like my way or the highway. It's like, listen, we're the ones out there playing. We're the ones out there got to go out to make the play. So he was always to me, and I've talked to guys in the past, even Carson last year, about the communication level with him and Bobo, and it's just so good. And he cares so much about his players. So I'm cheering for him. I hope Georgia goes out there and has one of the best offenses in the SEC. They win a national championship, and he could put a natty on his middle finger and just flick off the rest of Georgia fans that have doubted him for so long.
Well, that's the same thing with Stacey Searles, and a lot of people don't like him because we've seen this sort of the offensive line underachieved last year. But this year they went out and they brought in Phil Rasher to help out. How does that dynamic work? And do you think that's a good thing, or is that going to cause some issues?
I think there's a lot of injuries last year too as well. I mean, you have guys moving around, different communications. I lean on Ben Jones when we do our show, and just the how that unit has to work together in order to have success, and the communication, the trust. And when you have guys moving from spot to spot to spot to spot, testing guys out. So I think that's the one thing that I think it's hard in today's game, because you want to build depth at offensive line. So you have to be able to retain depth. So you feel like you have to play guys in order for them to stay. So it's a fine balance of that, but also like just saying, what, screw it. Like, we want to win. And I need to get those 5 guys playing left tackle, left guard, center, right guard, right tackle. Not, hey, you're playing left tackle, then you're going to play right tackle because I got to bring him in to play left tackle to give him some reps. Like, no. I need my 5 to 1, stay healthy, and then 2, go out there and play enough reps together where they build that chemistry hopefully throughout the whole season. So, no, I think Stacey's a great offensive line coach, and fingers crossed that he can get that very talented but not as experienced group together early on this season. Because listen, they're going to have some tough challenges. Luckily, they're in Athens, so the crowd noise won't be terrible, but still, they're going to be going against some pretty good defensive lines.
Aaron, going back to Gunnar, is there a quarterback you've seen maybe you could compare him to? I've heard maybe a Riley Leonard type of comparison, that kind of thing, 1. And 2, the drops. We talk about the drops all the time on this show, and I've maintained there's no way in Hades they're going to have that many drops this year. But talk about the psyche to a quarterback when those type of things happen and you lead the nation in drops? What does that do to the psyche of a quarterback?
Well, I do like the Riley Leonard. I think he's a better thrower than Riley, to be honest. Like I was not a big fan of. I love Riley's competitiveness. It's kind of funny. You don't realize how big Riley Leonard is until you look at it. He's like 6'4", like 215, 220. I don't know why, but he looks smaller on TV. So Gunnar's obviously not that big, maybe a little bit thicker, able to handle the run game a little bit more. But a competitor like that. And I do think he's a better thrower of the football than Riley. So, I agree with you. Like if there is a comparison, that's a good one. And obviously that's a guy that was in the national championship last year without really much of a passing or a receiving core around him. It was a run first offense.
Max Duggan's been brought up too.
Yeah.
No, I think he's a better thrower than that. I think he's a better thrower than both those guys, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like I didn't think Max was a pure thrower. Max is just a great athlete, a great competitor, and had a first round, receiver in Quinton on the outside that he could throw the ball to. Heading into that national championship game, I told everyone, like, there's no way in hell that TCU has any chance versus Georgia. No chance. Like they are going to get blown out. And obviously that happened. Like he's a good quarterback, but you need to be a really good quarterback and you need 2 or 3 receivers at that time in order to beat a defense like Georgia. And TCU just did not have that. And obviously got exposed in a big way. But no, like I said earlier, like I think he has all the tools you want. Does he have the ability to layer footballs like Carson? Maybe not. I think the touch is something that, necessarily isn't his go-to. I think his go-to is let me throw it through a receiver's chest. And I think there's going to be times he's got to learn to kind of feather the football a little bit, but throws a great deep ball. I think throws a really good intermediate ball. I think has great athleticism. I think there's toughness. I think there's leadership. I mean, if you want to check off all the boxes, he checks off almost every single one in my mind. So, like I said earlier, more than capable of doing it. And then when it comes to the drops, I think that's part of the reason why Carson pressed so much last year.
Yeah.
As a quarterback, when you have guys out there not holding up their end of the bargain, you start feeling like you got to do more. I got to be even more accurate. I got to, find, bigger plays out there because, our guys aren't getting it done. So you do start to press, which Carson did a year ago. So it all kind of plays together. That's why I said receivers were my number one issue. Kirby finally said enough's enough. I got to get guys in the portal. I got to recruit better receivers. He did that. And then offensive line running back. So I think it feels like the offense should be more consistent and better than it was a year ago, regardless of who the quarterback is.
Aaron, I want to get your take real quick to jump in here on some of those. I know you mentioned Branch. A guy that is seemingly popping up a lot over the last few weeks has been Noah Thomas.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time Georgia's had, going into a year, 2 potential X receivers on that roster. Because you've covered the SEC, so I know you've studied Noah Thomas at some point throughout the year. What's your takeaways on Noah Thomas, and how do you think Georgia's offenses evolves going into this year with 2 guys in Colby and Noah that can man that X receiver position?
Well, I think it plays well for Gunnar. I mean, let's talk about what Gunnar's strengths are. Gunnar's strengths are throwing down the field shots. So you got 2 6'5" receivers and him and Colby that you can throw some one-on-one balls to down the field. Those back shoulders or even like 30 to 40 yards, whatever it may be. So I think that's a strength that plays for Gunnar, plus the size of those receivers, being able to win some one-on-ones. Then the intermediate game as well. Just think of like a basic, 12-yard curl, a dig route over the middle of the field. Like you need big bodies that can kind of create some separation at the top. And I love the quickness. I love Zachariah Branch. I love the fact that you can, wiggle him over against middle linebackers and nickels and find a ways to get him open over the middle of the field. But, if I'm a quarterback and I can take a 3-step drop, and I know that my 6'5", 215-pound receiver on the outside is just going to kind of bully a DB up, and I can throw it to a big body where, like, I don't have to worry about accuracy as much. When I got a 6'5" frame out there, I can just let it rip. And like I said, like that's what Gunnar does well. He rips the crap out of the football. No thinking, just throw it. So when you got a guy like Noah,
really, you throw in Colby Young, right? You got 2
exactly. You got 2 of those guys that you don't even got to think. I trust those guys are going to create some space because of that size. So I love Noah Thomas and his ability. What we saw from him a year ago at Texas A&M, and that was with I would say really inconsistent quarterback play too. Think about A&M last year, the quarterback spot. Wegman underperformed big time, big time. And then their guy heading into this season, I thought played well, more of an athlete, Good thrower of the football. I wouldn't say maybe he's similar to Gunnar, but maybe not as good of a thrower of the football. Marcel Reed is. So I think he's in maybe a better position in an offense that wants to throw the football compared to what they have at A&M with Colin Klein. So I think you could see even more from Noah Thomas heading into this season.
Aaron, you talked about the offense a lot. Tell us about the defense. What should we expect? Because a lot of people are saying this could be the best linebacking core that Kirby's ever had. Is that what you're seeing?
Best linebacking core. I mean, we've had some good ones. I think back to like those, 2018, 19 championship years. I mean, they had some studs. Listen, I think they're going to have to play like some of the best linebackers in the country. CJ Allen is first round talent, second round talent, definitely up there in the draft boards, has that ability, has the playing experience. But you can ask any linebacker what makes them successful, and that's defensive line. Yeah. Ask those guys that played so well from 2018 through the national championships. Like those guys obviously are great, phenomenal. And a lot of them are playing in the NFL, but they were behind first round talent at defensive line.
Yeah,
where those guys were, Jordan Davis would gobble up double teams, and all of a sudden linebackers can run free. So you could be as good as you want at linebacker, but if you got an offensive guard and center that can work doubles up to that linebacker, it's tough sledding, unfortunately. So I think that's my biggest concern for Georgia this year. It's not the linebackers, and I think the DBs will be just fine. There's a lot of talent back there, and hell, there's a lot of talent at the defensive line position. It's just unproven. Are those guys up front going to be able to, create pressure on the quarterback? Who's going to be Jalen? Who's going to be Michael? Who's going to be run stuffers up front? Who's going to be able to eat up double teams? Because like I said, man, I love the linebackers. And I think obviously that's the heart and soul of Georgia's defense heading into the season, but they need those front four guys, those front five guys in front of them to play at a level that allows them and their stardom to really shine.
Eddie?
Harrison,
go ahead. Aaron, let's talk about the defensive line. I know they don't. I mean, when talking about experience, they return Christian Miller, they return Xavier McLeod. I think that's a guy a lot of people are starting to find out about. The big conversation has been Elijah Griffin. I mean, what are your expectations for that defensive line going into this year? Because you talked about how key it was for a Jordan Davis, a Jalen Carter to absorb double teams and to let those linebackers play free. Feels like over the last few years, Georgia really hasn't had as dominant of play on the interior.
No. Well, I mean, you had two guys from those natty years, which I mean are as good as anyone that you'll see, and are obviously starting for the Philadelphia Eagles and just won a Super Bowl. So it's not easy to get guys like that year in and year out. Especially in an era where like we talked about earlier, the offensive line guys are transferring in and out. So Georgia's always been in all our defense line, too, that has less been about star power. I think Jalen had a lot of star power last year. I think Michael had the ability to, and obviously dealt with injuries and never really got to that point consistently. But they play as a unit. So I'm not looking necessarily for, based on the schematics of what Kirby wants and what Schumann wants, some guy to go out there and just necessarily be game changers. I think like I said, the mentality for that unit is we play together, we play sound, we play discipline, we do our job, and then we allow guys like CJ Allen at the second level to kind of eat. And I think that's what they need to be. So I'm not going to sit back at the end of the season if Georgia's number 1 or 2 in the conference when it comes to total defense and say, I'm expecting big stats from the defensive tackle or even like the outside linebackers. I'm expecting those guys did what they needed to do, and that CJ Allen had 90 tackles and a couple picks and some sacks. So that's just the way they're taught. That's the way they do it. But like we said earlier with offensive line as well, like there's plenty of talented guys on that defensive line. It's just when the lights get bright, when Alabama's in town, when Texas is in town, when Ole Miss is in town, when they go to Knoxville, the experience, the mentality, the confidence is not there. And those are big things. Like when you're going against other great players and you can't just say, hey man, I've done this 50 times already. It plays into your psyche a little bit. So hopefully they can have success early and then continue to build on that as they get ready for some of those big games.
Well, Aaron, we're running up against it, and we really appreciate you coming on the show. It's been fantastic. So I got a couple questions for you. So first, what was easier to survive? Almost getting murdered by Nick Fairley or running a marathon where you said the last 2 miles were like this, almost uphill?
Oh man, I couldn't walk for a couple days after either of them. I mean, Nick Fairley had, fractured sternum, 10 stitches in my chin, sprained knee. So I was hobbling around a little bit. And then after that marathon, I was, kind of just sitting around the house for about 2 days afterwards too. Couldn't really do much. So both were painful experiences. Luckily for me, I only had to do the Nick Fairley experience once. And I guess that's it, because I've already signed up for my second marathon. So I decided that I'm going to punish myself again. Yeah.
Well,
one a year. 1 a year is our goal.
Glutton for punishment, right? Yeah. And lastly, what games are you covering this year on ESPN, and what big games have you got coming up in the fall that people can see you on?
I mean, who knows? I mean, ESPN, they give us our schedule like 6 days in advance, baby.
Okay.
Wait and see. But I'll be. Last year I was on the SEC network. This year they moved me over to ESPN, so you can catch me on ESPN or ESPN2 at noon or 7. So I'll kind of be floating between those two time slots throughout the season. So really excited. I love covering just the SEC a year ago. Made my life a little bit easier, especially with travel. But I'll still cover mostly SEC games. They'll probably get some ACC games, maybe a couple Big 12 games. Yeah. So probably good for me overall to not be just an SEC guy. So it'll be fun to kind of check out some new spots. But week 1, if you do want to catch me on, I actually got 2 games. I got Missouri on Thursday night. So I'm going to go check them out. And then I actually got to go to Norman, Oklahoma on Saturday. So never been there before. So excited to kind of see what they look like heading into the season.
That's great. Good.
Aaron, real quick, take a question from the viewer. Garrett Key asked, was the 2013 Georgia LSU game the craziest game Aaron has ever played in? Folks say that was a top 5 game in Stanford history.
I was there. It was unbelievable.
Oh, it was unbelievable. No one won to leave the stadium. I think that was the craziest thing to me. Like, no one won to leave. So like that was really special to like experience. Like I have friends to this day that like, dude, like my dad and I were there and like we're embracing each other, crying. Like we didn't want to leave. Like it was such a cool feeling just being there 30 minutes post game, and it's still 90,000 people in the stands. It was awesome. Obviously the craziest game was Alabama in the Dome. But the best experience I would say was probably that LSU game in 13.
Is that Alabama game the biggest like kind of crappy game of your career? Like, because I mean, you're that close. Like,
because we would have won the Natty too,
the national championship.
It just we lost our focus. I mean, Ogletree blocked the kick. We returned it for a touchdown, and like you saw everyone's face on the sideline say, "Oh my God, we're going to Miami." And I mean, I'll admit, like I did too. Like I'm like, as soon as that happened, I was like, "We're going to Miami."
I remember watching him run down the field. I was like, this is
over. It's over. So I mean, that was.
Well, Aaron, my wife and I were at that game, and what transpired, I'm not going to get into it, but you know what transpired, was on the opposite end of the field. So we couldn't really see what was happening. And afterwards, like the second it happened, confetti came up and Alabama ran on the field. And my wife looked at me and said, "What just happened?" I was like,
"Oh, I know.
I don't know." We couldn't tell what happened.
It felt like the Super Bowl with Tony Romo. We didn't know how the Super Bowl ended.
Yes.
It was like, are we done? Is this over with? Like, what are we supposed to do? It was like the slowest 5 to 6 seconds of my life because I'm watching the clock. It felt like those 6 seconds took, a year, but like knowing deep down inside, like there's nothing I could do at that point.
So where were you? Where were you when Keely Ringo made the pick 6, and how good did that feel?
I was about to go there, Eddie. That's what.
Sorry.
I was there. I was.
Oh, you were there. Okay.
God, I think I was up in a box for the game, but then I got my way down to the field, and like that box in the end zone. I just got to that box as it happened.
So he
So
ran
like, I
to you
saw
or
him
away from
running
you?
at me. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Man, that's
Yes.
got
Oh my
to be the coolest
God.
thing ever. Like,
Yes.
Unbelievable.
I was
So
gonna do
how did you
something with
feel
like
being
the
so close to that
yeah.
all your career? You were so close to
Oh.
that. How did that make you feel as a
Oh.
player?
Well, I remember like
alum,
seeing
all that kind of
Stetson
stuff?
afterwards and like embracing Stetson, and obviously, knowing Stetson and his journey. I was emotional. I'm not gonna lie. Like I was
Yeah.
really emotional.
I cried like a baby upstairs,
Oh,
dude.
I did. Well, the best part was
I mean,
like I drove home because it was like a last minute I decided to go. So I drove up and I was driving back to Atlanta the next morning exhausted, maybe like an hour of sleep. I actually think I left at like 4 a.m. Started the drive, slept in my car for like an hour, then continued the drive. And I totally forgot I had to do like a hit for ABC Atlanta. So I get out of the car, I get my phone, I'm doing the hit on like the side of the highway, and I'm so exhausted. Like exhausted and emotional. I start like tearing up during the interview,
Oh, yeah.
like start crying. And but man, it was a special moment, man. Just as a
Oh, yeah.
as a true dog now, and excited to see what Kirby's been able to do and kind of get over that hump and win some natties. It was a really special moment for everyone that bleeds red and black.
Aaron, real quick before we wrap it up and let you go, I gotta ask. I'm gonna put you on the spot. What is your prediction for the 2025 Georgia season regular season?
Regular season, I think they go 11-1, 10-2 at worst.
Wow. Okay.
I think Ole Miss is not going to be what they were a year ago at all. I think that I like Austin Simmons. I think Austin's going to be a tremendous quarterback, but man, they lost so much on both sides of the football, just top tier talent. So, plus they're in Athens, forgot what Georgia's record at home is crazy. Like I said, Alabama, I don't know, what their situation is going to end up looking like at the quarterback position. So like I think that's obviously a big concern to me is how good Ty Simpson's going to be.
Yeah.
So like I still think Georgia wins that football game. How good is Texas going to be? How good is Arch going to be? Like I said, all those games are at home. I don't think Tennessee is going to be very good at all. So like you go through the schedule and you're like, okay, like where are the losses? Like yes, Alabama, Texas, and Ole Miss are going to be tough. Georgia's just as good, if not better than those, Alabama and Texas. Even if they split those games, that's 11-1 right there. I do think a sneaky game is going to be at Auburn. I'm not going to lie.
Oh,
I think Auburn and that offense,
nightmare going there at night.
I think their receivers are some of the best in the conference. I do think that Jackson Arnold showed me some good stuff a year ago to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
To where like, dude, he had no support around him. So like,
and
I think
Auburn's
that's
got
kind
that
of a
game
sneaky
circled,
game.
right?
Yeah,
Auburn's got that game circled.
That's a sneaky game that I'm a little bit concerned about if I'm a Georgia fan, which I am obviously. So I am concerned about that game. But no, I think they can beat all the other teams. I think they should win 2 of the 3 of the Ole Miss, Texas, Alabama. So that's why I got 11-1, 10-2 at worst.
Good.
I think we're all right along there with you. 11-1, 10-2. Aaron, thank you so much for taking the time to do this with us. We really do appreciate it. You're always gracious with your time. We're looking forward to seeing you call the games throughout the year. I know you and T-Bob have at least temporarily paused snaps. Is there anywhere that fans can go to find you to get Aaron Murray's takes like every week? Like what?
Yeah. So T-Bob is where he needs to be at Barstool, just thriving. His personality is meant for Barstool. So I miss him. I miss him dearly. So I think we're gonna have some updates about snaps here in a week or two. Looking to get a new co-host there, and then I still do my Letterman show after Georgia games with Ben Jones, DeVaris King, and Noshawn. We may be adding a defensive presence, which will be fun. A pretty big name. We're actually talking to him tomorrow, so hopefully we'll have some good news and updates about that at some point next week. So yeah, you catch me there. And like I said, we'll have some updates about the new direction of snaps here. Hopefully the next 7 to 10 days as well.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's good.
Well, appreciate you fellas, and have a great week and go Dogs.
Thanks.
Yeah, go Dogs. Thank you, Aaron.
Guys, that was Aaron Murray. Got a full 34 minutes with the legend himself, Aaron Murray. I think he's still the all-time SEC leading passer. Shout out Will Rogers for transferring out of the conference to keep that intact.
Well, that doesn't count playing in that offense.
Yeah. I mean, what was y'all's biggest takeaways from, I guess, we got a lot of questions, and a lot of questions in. I think a lot of, as we talked about pre-show, we are just as intrigued as y'all's watching in terms of the answers to these questions. Like, those are some of our biggest questions that Aaron just answered for us from his perspective.
Well, you notice when we talked about what his concerns, and it was the defensive line. What's all of our, and that's what's so cool. It's like he didn't sugarcoat anything when he talked about Bobo and Farrell's. He was like, no, they're great coaches. They need to get better and do things better. But he's like, they're great coaches. I thought he was honest. I thought he was just, way he breaks stuff down, like his insight to the program. He's talking to one of the best Georgia quarterbacks ever. So his insight is going to be right there as good as anyone.
Well, you're talking about the quarterback position, and I was impressed by what he said about Gunnar Stockton, because we threw out Riley Leonard and Max Duggan. He kind of poo-pooed those and said, and I'm of the opinion if he's better than Riley Leonard or Max Duggan, we're winning a natty.
You might be
basically said, he basically said he's better than both of those guys. I mean, throwing the ball is what he was talking about, right? So, I mean, that really excited me to hear him say that about Gunnar Stockton right there as a quarterback.
Yeah, that's big.
I think it was reassuring to hear, like you said, what he thought about Gunnar as a quarterback, but also in terms of his analysis of the issues of last year. Like
wide receivers dropping passes, running game, offensive line, everything. Yeah.
And where you slot that. You slot Carson Beck was, I think, fourth of the things he mentioned after that, which I think tells you a lot of things. Like, I think it tells you that last year Georgia really did have some big execution issues, and it was really not so much, hey, the coaching staff couldn't keep, Carson from developing more. It was more so, hey, the pieces around the quarterback had failed the system as a whole. And I think now, even with the loss of experience, you lose a lot of experience. I mean, he talked about bringing in Zachariah Branch, bringing in a Noah Thomas out of the portal. I mean, who would have thought that Zachariah Branch, a kid from USC, who I think one of the first programs mentioned when he entered the portal was Tennessee and Oregon. Those are not the type of portal recruitments that Georgia wins very often. Yeah. And they won. I think that was something that made me feel a little bit better about those groups in terms of he has confidence those guys to go in on the outside.
Hey, and this one goes out to the entire dog vent. Talk about the confidence he has in Mike Bobo as calling plays this year. And now he played for him. He understands Mike Bobo, so he's partial. But, I mean, there was no hesitation. He was like, just relax about Mike Bobo, basically, is what he said, right?
Well, that is a quarterback saying, hey, the players have got to do better. He can't. He's like, he said he can't make Carson not throw into triple coverage. He can't make the wide receiver.
Bobo can't make people catch, right?
And is Bobo the greatest coordinator ever? Maybe not. But when the guys are dropping passes and then your quarterback's just closing his eyes basically and throwing
and he can't run the ball.
Can't run the ball, and the offensive line's hurt, And another thing he mentioned about the offensive line was guys moving around. I've never been a big fan of that. I want to have a starting left tackle, a starting left guard, a starting center, starting right guard, starting right tackle, and then you have backups. I don't like he's over here playing left guard. Let's move him to right tackle, and we'll bring someone. I'm not a fan of that, so I'm hoping that changes as well. And it kind of sounded like Aaron Murray was thinking the same thing.
Gentlemen, I guess before we wrap it up, let's talk about this, or wrap it up and move with the Georgia stuff and move on to, we got some Falcons talk, we got some Braves talk, because we are the Peach State Power Hour, of course. Let's talk about the scrimmage. Without, I guess, giving away the premium content, go over to UGAsports.com to go get that. I think by all indications, for a first scrimmage, and honestly for the last week, because I know we didn't get to talk about the pressers for this past week, it feels to me that the motto of fire, passion, and energy is truly hitting home, and the team's actually buying into that. When Schumann starts his press conference on, I believe that was Wednesday, saying, hey, he commended the guys for bringing that fire, passion, and energy, that made me feel good that, hey, the message is getting home with those guys. And by all indications, from what people have been saying about what they saw at the scrimmage, sounds like that was on display Saturday.
Yeah, talking about quarterbacks and going back to Gunnar, like everything I've read and everything that I've like videos and all I've seen, Gunnar's the guy, and everybody's saying he looks really good. So I think that's a good thing. They mentioned that that Puglisi looked good, and Ryan Montgomery's getting some love about how good he's looking. But they said Gunner's the guy, and that's a good thing. I think that's good that he is taking it and running with it.
Yeah, and some of that came out, Harrison, was the separation. They were asked about Gunnar and Puglisi. Is Puglisi really pushing Gunnar? And there's a massive separation. Apparently, it's not even close, right? Gunner's the man. I mean, that's not even a question. So we can lay that aside. But I think it goes back to what we talked about, and I pointed out last week about the youth of this team and how it's kind of energized the coaching staff. You can kind of see it in what they're talking, the fire, passion, and energy that comes out. And I was talking to somebody that I think it was Bill Shanks I was talking to about this week about how there's no more players left from the national championship run, right? It's all kind of players that want that now, right? Yeah. They haven't done that. I mean, we had players last year that had already done that. We've climbed that mountaintop. I'm not knocking their fire, passion, and energy, but it's a little bit different when you got players that have never experienced that. You've got incoming players that want to have their own mark on this program. And I think that's a big thing for this program going forward.
And it almost seems like, I'm not saying Kirby was calling out the last teams, but he's almost saying last year's team did not have that the whole week. And this team does. Yeah, I think he did too. I don't think he's directly taking a shot.
Subtle way. No.
A subtle shot, yeah.
Question right here. Does complainers I guess that's not a question. There was a question in here in the chat. Let me go find it. I know I should have started. Do you guys, here we go, from Mountain Man 73, do you guys think the rat poison surrounding Gunnar is making him push harder to prove he's the guy? I mean, just my take.
Is there really any rat poison when it comes to Gunnar, though? I mean, if his name was Gunnar Manning, would there be rat poison? There probably would.
If his name is Gunnar Manning, he would be the number one player. He would be. Yeah, that is
right. That to me is rat poison. Gunnar is completely under the radar, and for most commentators, Aaron Murray notwithstanding, it's like Gunnar. He's going to be a game manager. And I mean. Right. That's what everybody thinks.
I think Arch Manning is going to be an excellent quarterback. No, I do. I think he looks good, but I don't know why Gunnar's getting outside of the last name. It's just like as long as he's okay, but he was top 100, top 150 in the country or something. So I mean, he was a highly touted quarterback.
But I keep going back to this. I asked you guys on our thread. I asked you guys. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good.
I was just going to say, the thing we keep hearing about Arch and Gunnar is, well, they weren't good enough to beat out Carson Beck and Quinn Ewers last year, right? So why is Arch way up here and Gunnar's like way down here? They had the same thing in front of them. They couldn't beat out the guy in front of them if they're the babe, the boy, right? Yeah. Arch is the exact same thing. And I don't know. I'm a wait and see on Arch, Andy. I'm just going to wait and see. I'm not as high on him as you are.
Okay. That's fair. Yeah.
RB Media asks, what are you guys hearing about the offensive line, including the freshman who plays? Well, Roddy, I believe it was Roddy DeBolsey that dropped the big notes over on the dog vent regarding the starting offensive line. Did have a freshman in it. We won't reveal who. We'll go ahead and tease you over to the dog vent to go get those notes.
He's really big.
Yeah. Yeah. Doesn't give anything away.
Sign up. You can get it for 1 week for $1, right? Right, Harrison?
Right.
Yeah. You can sign up for, I believe it's $1, and you get access to UGA Sports. You get access to a phenomenal national news
and
team.
The Athletic.
And you now get access to the Athletic. Yep. So phenomenal value. You can go get a UGA Sports subscription for cheaper than soda for most vending machines these days. If you put it that way, I don't know why you're not signing up. Gentlemen, let's shift gears let's go Falcons first. Falcons played football. Full disclosure, I was on the road, so I was not able to catch the Falcons game on Friday night. Now, I know that obviously the game ended early. A little bit earlier due to a significant health scare. Our thoughts and prayers go out to, I believe his last name was Morris, the Lions DB.
And he's okay. Apparently he's okay. He's got function and everything. He's moving around, breathing fine. So that's good news.
Absolutely. Let's start here because I see it pretty much every offseason. The debate around should your starters play in preseason games. The Falcons didn't play them this past Friday in the first preseason game. Gentlemen, are we I mean, what are y'all's thoughts on that?
Play your players. Michael Penix has how many games now in the NFL? 4? 3? Okay.
As a starter.
Yeah, as a starter. Kirk Cousins may or may not be healthy. Let him play. Get in rhythm with the wide receivers, with the running backs, with the offensive line. He needs to play. And like the other teams are playing. We saw JJ McCarthy playing. I mean, like, let those guys play. Don't bench the players, because what's going to happen when they go out there in the first game and they're rusty? They don't have any of the game experience. It's stupid. I don't like it at all. I don't like it one bit.
You know who has more reps in the preseason right now, preparing for their regular season, than Michael Penix? Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow.
Does Joe Burrow need reps in the preseason? Probably not. He got them. Jamar Chase got reps. Okay. And it just drives me crazy. I'm Easton Stick. He goes out there and plays a pretty good game. Is that going to help us against Tampa in a few weeks? Easton Stick getting reps?
He had a great game.
It's rhetorical. Great. Whatever. I mean, if Easton Stick is on the field at any time during this season, our season is over. Okay? It's over. He does not need to see the field. So
what Mountain Man said.
Michael Penix should have been out there at least for a series. What are these coaches so afraid of? Okay. It just drives. And I think part of it is Raheem Morris knows he's on thin ice as it is. And it goes back to when Dan Reeves played Michael Vick back in the early 2000s in the preseason, and he broke his leg, and Reeves got fired over it, which was ridiculous. That's a whole nother talking point I'm not going to get into.
Yeah.
But that's what these coaches fear. And Raheem Morris is on thin ice. He knows that if Michael Penix goes out Friday night, he blows out his ACL, God forbid, he's probably gone. That's what they're doing. But the caveat, the corollary to that is that if we go out against Tampa Bay and the offense is floundering around and we score 12 points and lose 32-12, the question is going to be, why didn't you play these guys in the preseason to get them some snaps?
Yeah,
right?
And have players ever been hurt in practice? Have ACLs ever torn in practice?
Exactly. They have a scrimmage this week against another team. And Penix is playing. What's the difference?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think a lot of it probably just goes back to that NFL coaches being so scared to give anything away on tape these days. Like,
no,
you don't want to do anything in front of.
It's really the injuries. It's not tape.
Yeah.
You know?
Which, and somebody brought this point up because I talked to somebody else about it. You know, he's like, well, isn't training camp in the preseason supposed to be about the 40 guys that are trying to make the 53-man roster, not the you know, the 40 or so guys that are already kind of secure. Like, his take was, shouldn't they, you know, if you need the preseason to get your starters ready, then aren't you kind of already failing your team because the college teams do it without a preseason?
I mean, that's a good
They
point.
don't have a preseason. I mean, it's built in for the NFL, and we saw it. How many? You guys remember? We used to have 4 preseason games, right?
Yeah.
And that third game was the game where Matt Ryan would go out there and play basically through the third quarter. That was the game where you kind of got everything together. Okay. And then the fourth game was a throwaway. That was the guys trying to make the team. That's what you built up to. And before that, he would play like a series maybe 2 series in the second. Exactly. Yeah. And now with 3 games, it's completely changed. And they've thrown all that out. Some of them have, okay. Atlanta has for whatever reason. And I don't understand it. But I want to flip this around real quick. What I saw on the defense, I know Jalen Walker and James Pierce did not make the stat sheet, but I saw a lot of fire, passion, and energy from those guys. And DeMarco Hellams, look out for this guy. He's healthy. That guy, it looked like Javon Bullard out there making plays. I think this defense, I'm really excited about this defense now. They look really good with not having a lot of starters out. They look like they had that fire, passion, and energy that Kirby talks about.
That hit Hellams put on the receiver up the seam? That was disgusting. I saw that highlight. I was like, my God.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess in terms of kind of going forward, because they only do have 3 preseason games now. If they don't play the starters at all, I think then you're like, what the hell, for sure. Now, if they come out and they play the starters for even if it's just a quarter, are you kind of at this point like, okay, like whatever, like, yeah, it would have been nice to get him some extra snaps in this first game? Or
I would like to see the starters play at least one series in this next game and get a little momentum play. But now if you go 3 and out, give them another series. And then the next game right before the season starts, give them another series or 2, because you got to get that continuity. Like, you got to get the timing with your wide receivers, the quarterback and wide receivers. I know you practice it every day. It's still different than being in the game. So I'd much rather those guys play a couple of series. So, and Alex is saying they will play.
And I don't think it's been officially announced, right? He hasn't said. He said in the first game they're not playing. Now maybe that changes. They play a little bit in the second game. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But I'm with you, Andy. I'd like to see just a series or 2 just to get some timing down in a real, everything's different when you go into Mercedes-Benz, the stadium, the fans, you got to get some points there, whatever you want to call it, just some ideas of what's going on in life. It's different than when you're in Flowery Branch practicing against whoever they're practicing against this week or their own selves, right? It's just different. You got to do that kind of thing. And I don't see it happening, though. I just don't think he will. But and again, it's all going to boil down to that Tampa Bay game. If they come out and lay an egg offensively, or look, they're floundering around for the first half and they end up losing the game because of that, we can all go back to this. And I'm going to say it's because you didn't play you guys in the preseason. I'll say it.
Agreed. Yep.
Let's shift gears one final time. Let's talk some Braves baseball. I know I don't want to poke the bear too much in terms of the bear that's sitting up in the top right corner in terms of getting him fired up. Maybe that's what the viewers want, though. Maybe they want some fire, passion, and energy about the Braves. I guess in terms because the game to game now, there's not much to be had in terms of talking points. The Braves did just snap their 10-game Sunday losing streak. Which I guess was you're due at some point.
Do we hang a banner for that? Do we have a parade for that?
They have a trophy for what they won in Bristol.
Tennessee got a book for beating Alabama, so good for them.
Yeah, I'm gonna break out the cigars, gentlemen. I guess my question, in terms, because I know both y'all were on the if they're not going to re-sign any significant players, well, let's go ahead and tear this thing down and rebuild. Is there anything at this point in terms of your outlook on these players on this roster that are, that they're in the move on from category? Is there anything that they can change, or is this season and what they've done for these last 60 or so games just a write-off?
Michael Harris looks better. I'll give him that. I mean, and we need him, I guess, because he is good defensively. But I don't think they're going to get rid of any of those guys. I think Harris is going to be here. Austin Riley's going to be here. Clearly Murphy is going to be here.
Please don't say Marcelo is going to be here. Please don't.
Big Bear, no, I love Big Bear, and he went yard twice yesterday, but he's not going to be here. Because, there's just no way, and the money's not going to add up. And plus, you got to remember, these other guys that are on these long-term contracts, those will start accelerating, and they'll start getting more money. So even though Marcel's got a lot of money coming off the books, it's still really on the books. So the core is here. The core is what you see. I do think they will make some moves at the end of the year, but the core is there. You're going to have Michael Harris. You're going to have Riley. You're going to have Murphy. You're going to have Baldwin, because they're going to, I think with Murphy and Baldwin is going to be DH and catcher. They're going to flip-flop those guys. I'm not sure if I agree with that, but I don't necessarily disagree with it either. I don't know.
So basically what you're saying, Andy, is we're bringing the band back next year and we're going to run it back.
And that's what I'm not excited about it, because what we've seen the last 2 years, I think is going to be that. Now, I don't know, but I do believe
you're the band leader.
I don't believe so. I believe we will have a new coaching staff. I think we'll have a new coaching staff.
Harrison, you agree with that? You think a new manager's coming in?
I think Snit is retiring, and if he doesn't retire, then I think the Rays have to move on. I think the reason they're letting him finish this season is because he's going to retire. Now, here's the real question, Eddie and Andy. Are they going to hire from within? Because to me, you need a culture change. You need to bring someone from the outside. I don't think you run this band back together. Pessimism Island is in. I'm sorry.
Paul Maharey.
The legend, Paul Maharey.
It's not.
I don't.
But that's a ridiculous comment right there. I'm gonna call this out because it's not pessimism. It's reality. This team is garbage, and it's been garbage for 2 years running. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong.
You're
Okay.
not wrong.
So
Paul's
that comment's ridiculous.
Paul's
He can
poking
kiss
the
my
bear.
butt.
So
Go ahead, Harrison.
Eddie, like last year, I was like, okay, they had injuries. Like, hey, I'll write that off. I'll give them that. This year, by all means, it's unacceptable.
No.
I mean, and we knew from the very beginning when they didn't make any additions to the bullpen, when they didn't really go out in free agency other than Jackson Profar, who missed all of what? But the first 2 games,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, it's going to be a struggle. And I think what y'all have gotten back to, and I agree with you, the problem with this Braves core, because I'm not on the blow it up train. I think as long as Acuna's here, you have to go for it. Now, the big problem is their core players are all very streaky.
Yeah, they are.
Michael Harris, even in his best year, he'll have hot and cold periods. Matt Olson, he's been a little bit more consistent over the last 6 months, but still, he'll go hot and cold.
Austin Riley, when those guys are hot,
very cold.
Nobody's better. But when they're cold, it's like, come on, guys. But yeah, you
Really cold.
Austin Riley will go on a tear for 6-7 games where he hits 475 and 6 home runs and drives in 20, and then he won't hit a home run again for 2 months. So,
we're talking about the manager here is what you're asking, Harrison, and I think it's just going to be the safe guy, which is Walt Weiss. They're just going to promote him.
You think it's going to be promoted?
I think it's the next Bobby Cox protege. He's next in line. He's served his dues. He's managed before. We just promote him and we move on. Now, I'm with you, Harrison. I would like to go completely outside, or it was Andy. I don't know whoever said it, but
Harrison.
Completely outside the organization, have a different type of voice. Mark DeRosa's name has been brought up, whatever. Just somebody completely different outside the organization to mix things up a little bit. But the way this buttoned up organization is, you don't want to, shake any feathers or whatever you want to call it. I just don't see it happening. I think it's Walt Weiss. I think he's going to be promoted and we move on.
Here's why I don't think it's going to be Walt Weiss, because Alex Anthopoulos did not hire Brian Snitker.
That's a good point.
Snitker, I don't think Snitker was ever his guy, obviously. So I think he may say, okay, I want to get my guy. I want all of my new coaches of who I want and go from there. Now,
because he's got to get this right, or he may be going.
Yeah, he's
right?
going to be a hot seat too. So he's got to make a good hire.
Well, that makes me feel a little better. That's good. That's good.
Does anyone know? I know he was at the Blue Jays for a while before he came to Atlanta. Has Alex Anthopoulos ever hired a manager? Like, it was his decision to hire a manager?
I know I think he hired with the Blue Jays. I think he hired one manager there, but he did not at the Dodgers. I know he didn't at the Dodgers. But it
may not even be him doing the hiring. It may be Terry McGurk or Liberty Media doing the hiring, right?
I think
that probably doesn't make you feel any better, does it? And it's like that.
That's why I think it's Walt Weiss. It's just like this is the guy. That's why I say that. And I'll say it now. They're bringing the band back next year. It's going to be the band with a couple of bullpen guys here and there. It's going to be basically the same guys. I just have zero confidence that they're going to do anything in the offseason to make us go, wow, that's something. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. And the fact of the matter is, and I think, kind of like Mountain Man said, this is really the true question for me. The ownership could care less about the on-field product. They are making so much money off the battery. It's insane. Yes, I think that's the only thing that the ownership will take a look at and say, hey, once the profits start going down, hey, we're doing something wrong. I think that is right.
The profits are going down because I'm contributing to that. My son is turning 21 tomorrow. You know what we're doing? We're going to the battery to let him go.
Blame Eddie. Blame Eddie from Acworth.
Your fault.
Yep, it's Eddie's fault. Damn it, Eddie.
Now with the battery is awesome. I mean, it's a draw.
It is.
Right?
I love it. I love it. Even if the Braves suck, I still go to the battery.
Yeah, it's great.
So, gentlemen, anything else before we wrap it up?
I'm just ready for some football. And
by the way, Corky Kell Classic kicks off Wednesday night. We got high school football. So we got legit football this week.
Greg Watts is drunk tonight. He wants Eddie to be the manager of the Braves. So
Please don't, because then it takes
I'm
away
not a
Eddie from
baseball
us on
guy.
Sunday
I'm not
nights.
I'm not a baseball guy. I didn't play. I don't. You know, I'm an outside.
you didn't play baseball?
I did. That
I
was
thought you
my
played. Okay.
basketball and football. Just didn't
This
play
may be
baseball.
true. Eddie may be funding part of Walt Weiss's salary next year if he is indeed the
Might
manager
be.
for the Atlanta Braves.
I don't want him as the manager. What does that mean? That's the dumbest comment ever.
Gentlemen,
Put
guys,
that back up. Put that last comment back up. Are you going to give the finger? Yeah, I might moon them, Alex. That's a good idea. I'm going to moon them.
Eddie, Paul Mahari says Eddie won't stay and watch the game. He's got another Billy Joel doc to watch.
Good doc. That's a good doc, and it's more entertaining than the Braves. I'll tell you right now.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and let Paul Mahari get the last word in here on the Peach State Power Hour. Guys, thank y'all so much for tuning in tonight. Another great night. The comments were absolutely on fire. You got some jokes that hit home great tonight. We appreciate y'all for joining us each and every week. Again, thank you to Aaron Murray for giving us 30 minutes tonight. That was awesome. Answered some of our biggest questions. I thought made for great content. Gentlemen, tell them where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter or X at Andy Stowe. And I mean, I have Instagram, but I don't use it. So Twitter at Andy Stowe.
At Eddie Mattingly, EDDY, not IE, because it wouldn't fit. So I had to change it to the Y. So,
and as always, you can find them over on the Dog Vent, home of the rowdiest, smartest, craziest Georgia fans out here in the message board community. We appreciate y'all. We'll see you back next week here live at 7:30.
Go Dogs.